So I wasn't wanting this to be a two-part video, but here we go. So I'm going to try to pick up from where I left off. So the venue management owners, whatever, at Green Street at that time were telling me that the show had just been canceled, that they had gotten word from Johnny's team that the show was canceled because he had to have emergency dental surgery. So I asked, why can't, the other acts perform? And to which the response was, Johnny's team can make the decision that if he's not playing, that no one's gonna play. And so then I was messaging back and forth with someone who was still in the band at the time. One of the people that the surprise was for, his name's Joe. And I'm not gonna say his last name. This isn't to try to make him look bad or anything. He just, basically the way the message was worded to me by, I'm pretty sure it was Joe, was that essentially the word that they had been given was that if Johnny doesn't get paid, no one does, and that they had actually found out that the show had been canceled the night before. It just wasn't made public information until like 2 hours before. And so I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if Mr. Michael O, if he knew the night before that the show had been canceled, like, why didn't he just tell me? Like, what is the point here? So that upset me, but that wasn't the part of it that I wasn't trying to react to that. I was trying to once again just let it slide. But I had made a Facebook post voicing frustration about the show being canceled last minute and receiving discrepancies in information, which is basically essentially, if the show had been canceled the night before, why wasn't it made public knowledge until 2 hours before the show? And so then after that post, Michael had seen the post and he had commented on it, basically that ignorance like that had no place on the internet. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, with this post I'm actually kind of defending your band, because your band, the band that you're in, should have had the chance to play. And I've been a fan of the band since well before this dude ever even joined the band. And this dude hasn't been in the band for quite some time. He hasn't been in the band since not long after that. But anyways, so I seen that post. Other fans of the band that I was friends with at the time seen the post. And they didn't seem to understand why he was treating me like this, especially after I'd told all my friends about them, spread the word, got people to come to their shows, got people to buy their merch, etc., etc., etc. And he's going to talk to me about this. And the more and more that I thought about it, I'm like, okay, who's a common thread in this? Who is also a fan of them, or that speaks to me like this? Or is there anyone else who speaks to me like this? And the more I thought about it, I'm like, Lauren Hernandez, because she's a fan of Secrets. And essentially, I had noticed before on Twitter that she would make fun of other fans, including myself, when I had no idea who she was. and just lurky, creepy, stalkery things, making fun of other fans and making fun of other people, and just genuinely being kind of, if you know what I mean. And this is coming from someone, I know that I have mental illnesses, I own them, but I also respect people's boundaries, and I don't go out of my way to cyberbully people, because it's wrong, for one, and for two, like, what is the point? What do you get out of it? But anyways, the more I thought about it, I'm like, he's probably being mean to me because he's friends with her. Because from the way that she posted online, it made it seem like they were just, the best of friends, kind of, masterminding things, if you will. And so I'm like, he's probably being rude to me because he's friends with this chick, and they seem to have a similar kind of personality type, kind of the type to be rude to people and then blame you when you call them out for being rude, and want to be like, oh no, sorry, that's just his personality. Well, fuck his personality. If he's really that rude to everybody, he kind of shouldn't be able to have a platform. But anyways, so the more I thought about it, I'm like, okay, everything that he's done to me leading up to this point probably has something to do with Lauren. And then after my post, and me not deleting it, I just kind of left it there. I had other fans that reached out to me to tell me about, like, how rude that Michael had been to them, etc., 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 and that they didn't say anything because they figured, they're just a fan, he's gonna be in the band forever, whatever. They just kind of took it with a grain of salt and kept moving. Well, me being the person that I am, I made a post on Facebook. I didn't use his name. I wasn't rude. I wasn't disrespectful in my personal opinion. I just gave my personal opinion, which is essentially, if you're going to be in a band and have a platform and treat your fans like shit, how are you going to have fans? Come on now. And so he had commented on it, LOL. And then I noticed that apparently, because I got a message from somebody who was a fan of Secrets at the time. I don't think he's a fan of Secrets anymore. And I haven't talked to him in quite some time. But anyways, I think I'd gotten a message from Anthony basically being like, oh, did you see Michael's tweets? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Michael who? And I rarely check Twitter. And I don't really follow many people on there. I still don't to this day. I'm rarely on Twitter. I don't like Twitter that much. But anyways, so I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Michael Owens. So I go on his Twitter account, and it's literally him making fun of me for having a fan group for a band that your dumb ass is in. So making fun of the fan group, being like, I don't even like cake, and generally just immature and childish behavior. And I think this dude was in his 20s at the time, so like, what gives? But then I also noticed that I think it was Skylar or Ty Accord or whoever, Scout, his nickname might have been Scout, from Issues, had like started responding to his tweets, asking like, oh, who was this about? Who are you referring to? And he basically said the girl that started the Secrets fan group. And so then him and the dude from Issues basically had this whole conversation about me. I've never met this freaking dude a day in my life, nor do I want to. I was never a big fan of Issues because, no offense, but I always had the idea that Tyler Carter thought that he was better than he actually was. I was never a fan of Woe Is Me. I was never a big fan of Issues. Yeah, there were a few songs that I liked, but I never went to a show to see Issues. Like, I didn't. That's not me. Matter of fact, when I went to Warped Tour back in, I want to say 2013, I was making my way trying to get to Bring Me the Horizons tent because I wanted to go to the meet and greet. And so I'm on my way walking toward the tent, and Tyler walks past me and he goes to like put his hoodie up, but he makes eye contact with me and he's kind of looking at me like, why aren't you freaking out? Like, why aren't you saying something? And I'm just like, I'm thinking to myself, because there are a bunch of bands on this tour, not just Issues. I didn't come to see Issues. Sorry. Plus, the way that I've always looked at it in my mind is don't put people in bands on a pedestal, because they're human beings just like you and I. Just because I'm not in a band and I don't have a platform, it doesn't mean that I'm any less of a human being, or any more for that matter. Everyone has flaws. This is why people shouldn't put people in those positions on a pedestal, especially if they already have a certain kind of like grandiose kind of personality type anyways. But anyways, so after all of that happened with Michael, a bunch of Secrets fans started messing with me via Twitter and otherwise. I was asked, how does Secret's dicks taste? I had to deactivate my Facebook 3 different times. I had to protect my tweets at one point. I had to set my asks to anonymous on Tumblr at one point because their fans were literally that bad. Like, I would get messages like, "You're fucking ugly. Xander doesn't want you." And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, okay, number one, Xander had a girlfriend at the time. Her name was Sam, and she's seen all of the messages that was sent to me, and for a while she tried to defend me before she became internet buddies with Lauren. But anyways, so like number one, he had a girlfriend, so whether I'm ugly or not has nothing to do with anything. It's irrelevant. I never said that I was pretty or ugly. I never said that I wanted to date Xander or anything like that. I was only ever a fan of Xander's, and I mean, we did have personal conversations, but it's not I never tried to be with him. I did see females on 2 separate occasions try to literally try to throw themselves at Xander at shows when he had a girlfriend, and he would look over at me like, help, and I would look over at him like, dude, what the fuck, you have a girlfriend. But they're no longer together. That's neither here nor there. I'm gonna get on with it anyways. So at this point in time, Richard Rogers, he would talk to my mom on Facebook. And according to my mom, and she even showed me the message, he had messaged her about how people were treating me online, and basically in his message was tell her to message me if she needs anything, is she okay? He was just reaching out to check on me. So I messaged him and I let him know how badly all of it had affected me, and that I had got to a point where I wanted to end my own life because these people would not leave me the fuck alone. And so I had messaged Richard and told him all of that, and he read it. He never responded. Joe knew about it. Sherman knew about it, which again, neither of them, they're not in the band anymore, so that doesn't matter anymore. But I mean, essentially all of them knew what was going on. And because of the way I felt like it was swept under the rug and not really handled, and then they went on to put one of the bullies in a music video of theirs. I'm just like, okay. So I took a step back. I stopped going to their shows. I stopped listening to them. I stopped keeping up with them. I basically just, like, in my mind, they were dead to me. Like, chapter closed. I don't like the way that some of them treated Xander. I didn't like the whole situation. And because of all of that, I only ever even got to meet Aaron Melzer once, which, rest in peace. I got to meet him at a Warped signing in 2013 because in 2013 they were like at every tour date to do a signing, but they only played select tour dates. So at my particular tour date, in North Carolina, they didn't actually perform that year. So I never actually got to see Aaron perform. I only ever got to meet him once at the signing, and like, he towered over me. I still have the picture. He was always really, like, he was nice to me in person that one time. He was nice to me on Facebook. He apologized about how people were treating me. And that was pretty much it. Like, by leaps and bounds, he seemed like the most mature one in the band. But anyways, so basically, the latter part of 2013, because that's when all of this happened, up until late 2015, I didn't listen to Secrets at all. I didn't keep up with them, so I didn't even know that Michael wasn't in the band until years after the fact. My mom had mentioned to me that they had gotten a new vocalist named Wade, that Aaron had left, and that apparently Michael hadn't been in the band for quite some time. So I'm like, okay, that makes me feel a little bit safer, because Michael's not in the band anymore, and I'm like, oh, they have a new vocalist. So I decided to check them out. I started listening to their music again. I was loving the music. I went to the first show after that I went back to was in March of 2016, and things were good, or so I thought. So fast forward to September of 2017. They were going to be playing a show in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And this was in September. I'll give the exact date, but I'm noticing I'm almost at 18 minutes already, so I'm going to chop this into 3 parts.